Welcome to Central Spotlight. I'm your host, David Nelson, Professor of Mass Communication here at the Department of Mass Communication at the University of Central Oklahoma. And today our guest is Chris Brannick. He's the Sports Information Director for the University of Central Oklahoma's Athletic Department. And Chris, again, the show, we'd love to highlight faculty, staff, and students and accomplishments and things of that nature on this show. But in regard to the athletic department, there's been a lot going on over across the street from the mass communication department. But before we get into it, a little bit about yourself. I know you are one of our graduates, but how did you get to Oklahoma, and how did you find your way to UCO as the new SID here in the last few years?
Well, I grew up, and thanks for having me, first off. I grew up in Sallisaw, Oklahoma. Chose UCO, not necessarily for any particular reason. Maybe it was a little far away from hometown, and I've just always loved it here. I graduated in 2013 with a degree in journalism, so from the Mass Comm department. I spent a lot of time in the Mass Comm building and in all the classrooms, and I've just kind of always loved UCO. I went to work for the Oklahoman for a few years. Using my journalism degree there, and then an opportunity opened up to come back and work in athletics, and sports has always been near and dear to my heart. A lot of people are sports fans, and I just kind of I can never get enough of it, and it doesn't really matter what kind of day it is. You can kind of a good day you're going to enjoy some sports, and even if you're having a bad day, you can still kind of get away in sports. So sports is always a very big part of my life, and getting an opportunity to come and work in an athletic department, it was a great opportunity, something I didn't feel like I could pass up, and especially being at UCO again, like a place, like I said, that I just really love it at UCO, and so it's been here for a couple of years as an employee now, and I just love it, coming to work every day, and like you said, what we'll talk about pretty soon is things coming to work every day is just getting a little more exciting as some of the things that are going on in the athletic department.
And then as a little boy in Sallisaw, Oklahoma, rural Oklahoma, even though you're near the Tulsa area, was it just sports from day one as far as you can remember?
Yeah, it was. I'm the youngest of three brothers, so
okay.
and I'm 32 years old. I have a brother that's 33 years old, and I have another brother that's 34 years old. So bless my mom's heart, first off. But it was every day. You get home from school, and we're out in the yard, and we're playing a baseball game, or we're playing a football game, or just anything. It was just always sports for us. And then of course you get old enough where you can start competing for the school and competing in varsity sports and things like that. And I was a basketball player in high school, but I wasn't a very good one. But I did play. I was on the team, and it's just kind of it's just been a thing where we all love sports, and we all watch sports on TV all the time, and we'd go out and play. We'd kind of recreate what we were seeing on TV as kids. We'd run outside and play a pickup basketball game, and someone was Michael Jordan and someone was Charles Barkley and things like that. And it's just kind of sports. Again, it's kind of what helped me choose a career path is you kind of take a look at your life and think, what's really a true part of your life, and going after doing something like that for a career is a good decision. I think I would tell someone, encourage someone to try to go after to pursue a career where that's something that's just a part of their life. It might not necessarily be a job if something is just part of your everyday life. And again, sports was kind of like that for me and my brothers.
Poor mom. A few broken windows, right?
Yeah, there was, whether you consider it a sport or not, there was a lot of wrestling, like WWE wrestling, going on too in the house, and so there's poor mom. There were fights every day. We go outside and try to recreate what we see on TV, and then sometimes that leads to a fight A lot of times that led to a fight, or when you start playing football with each other and it's you get tackled a little too hard, and then a fight breaks out again. And yeah, poor mom, she had to deal with a lot, and it kind of three boys that are 3 years apart are. I mean, that's just we sure try to pay her back now as adults.
Competitive too, right? I mean, I have a brother's a year and a half younger than me. There's a lot of competition, and especially now, I didn't get into the WWE throwing people down, but I can imagine how that can, because that's the height of WWE. I mean, it was all over cable, all over television. It was a real popular. It still is today, but at that point, it was really hitting its right stride at that time.
Yeah, it sure did. We watched a lot of I don't know if Hulk Hogan still is after it or not. I haven't watched it in a long time, but Hulkamania was such a huge deal at that time, and there was a lot of competition going on. And again, we would choose football players or baseball players to emulate in the backyard, but we also chose wrestlers too, and there was a lot of getting after it with each other on that one too. And so, yeah, the competition, and I kind of still think it is today. Now maybe it's a little bit more fun things, but the competition's always there with brothers for sure.
I'm speaking with Chris Brannick, and he is the sports information director and, well, the do-it-all guy at the athletic department here at the University of Central Oklahoma. But as you said, it doesn't feel like work, does it, when you're doing something? Now, I know doing something you really love, and I know you work unusual hours. It depends on what time of the year. You have different sports, travels required, and so how are you able to juggle that? I know you have a daughter, and so you got a lot of other, you got family, and you got your professional work. How are you able to juggle that so well?
Well, it's a challenge. It takes balance, and you kind of, sometimes I think that when you go home from work, you have to be able to go home, and if you only get to spend an hour with your family, maybe before we put our daughter to bed, maybe there's only an hour in the day left in the day, and you really gotta get home and enjoy that hour, and then some days there'll be a few hours, and then there's a few days every now and then when you don't have to work, that you just really have to know how to know I'm not working right now, and I'm spending time with my family, and I'm enjoying that moment. It goes so fast, and so you gotta kind of juggle that, and then I think fortunately too, my wife and daughter, they come to a lot of UCO sporting events, and so even if I'm working and they're in the crowd enjoying a game, yeah, we're not together and talking or anything like that, but we're still there together, and that kind of helps a little bit. At halftime or after a game, they can come over and we can have just another little moment. Again, it's anytime you have an opportunity to have that time with your family, I think you really should do whatever you can to take advantage of that, and that's part of what makes the balancing a little better. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough because I work nights and weekends, from when school starts. I kind of say from Labor Day to Memorial Day is kind of about what the NCAA schedule is, and it's nights and weekends. You play, a lot of sports take place at night, and a lot of Saturday is a college athletics day, and there's just always work to be done. But when you try to balance it, it's just kind of look for your opportunities and take advantage of them.
This is Central Spotlight. We're with Chris Brannick, the SID of the University of Central Oklahoma's athletic department, and when we return, we're going to get into all the exciting things, a lot of things going on at the athletic department, and we'll get into that when we return. This is Central Spotlight. Welcome back to Central Spotlight. I'm your host, David Nelson, professor of mass communication here at the Department of Mass Communication on the campus of UCO. With me today is Chris Brannick, the SID, Sports Information Director, and do-it-all guy at the athletic department. And Chris, we got to know you a little bit in the first segment, but now let's look at the athletic department. And my goodness, I mean, you guys have been on a run lately with a lot of support from alumni, financial support, but also not besides the financial support, but just some accolades going to the athletic teams. We have seen some major strides, teams being in the top 25, individual players being recognized nationally. Start somewhere. I mean, you guys had a lot of things going on.
Yeah, it's a great. We say a lot in the department. It's a great day to be a Bronco, and it's kind of a little bit of a rallying cry sometimes. Maybe you would tell someone before a game, maybe that would pump them up a little bit. Hey, it's a great day to be a Bronco, but really, when you kind of take a step back and you look overall at what's going on with the athletic department, it really is a great time to be a Bronco. There's a lot of amazing things. Yeah, we got some really big help over the last few years from some alumni that have given us an opportunity to really transform what UCO athletics is all about and what we can offer students, and it's been fantastic. And I think, that's kind of something that the more you give to these kids, they're coming here to compete in whatever sport they love, and whatever we can offer them from to give them, to make it the best experience. It just makes them feel better. Obviously, that would make anyone feel better, is to feel like that we're giving them all we can here, and then I think you start to see the rewards of that as a department where, you have a football player who earns 6 different All-American honors, or a volleyball player that earns 4 different All-American honors, and that kind of goes all around the board, I think. And it's just a lot of good things going on. I'd say facilities is probably a good place to start.
Yeah.
That's kind of the backbone of it.
Recognizable. I mean, and people can just drive by campus and go, whoa.
Yeah,
there's something going up.
I had a friend I went to school with here at UCO, and he texted me one day and he said, "What the heck is that thing going up?" And then he's in reference to the Sports Performance Center just north of Wantland Stadium, kind of before it really had a name, it was the North End Zone facility, because it's just right there. It's just feet away from the end zone on the football field, and massive building. It's close to 45,000 square feet, 3 stories. So it's taller than the goalpost that it sits right behind, and it's wider than the football field that it sits right on. And so a spectacular facility that we're real fortunate to be able to be putting up right now, slated to open this coming summer, the summer of 2018. I don't know specifically, but I'd say maybe it's between 60 and 70% complete now. They've almost got the whole all of the outside work done, and then things move a lot quicker after that. But just a great place. It's going to have a new weight training area, an athletic training area. Top of the line. You build something new, a lot of times it's going to be new. It's going to be better, and this one's bigger and better for us than what we were used to before. And it'll also have an academic center where Tutoring Central is a really great tool that the university has to offer all of its students, and they do a great job of working with the athletic department in helping with study halls. So after your practices, you might practice from 3 to 5 or something like that every day, but then you can go eat dinner and then you can go to a study hall. And Tutoring Central has been fantastic with that. And now we'll have an opportunity to have kind of our own space in the athletic department with this academic center, where we can kind of just continue to do that, and that's the most important thing, obviously, for us, is that these kids are getting a degree, that they're going to graduate from college, and that now we feel like we're just kind of continuing in that, a continuing step in that direction to make sure they have that. And, there are a lot of other features. There's offices and some other things going on in there, that it's just a great place. And I do know that when the football coaches can share photos of a new facility going up, high school kids like that. And when you're trying to recruit, it's an arms race anymore. Kids like flashy stuff. They like different jersey combinations, and they like shiny facilities and things like that. And when we're getting closer to being able to offer that to kids, and they like it. And there's been a little bit of a chatter about the UCO's upcoming signing class. Early this year, they'll have a national signing day, and a lot of the kids that have at least verbally committed, that I know that Nick Bobeck is hoping to get that signature coming soon. There's been a lot of chatter about how good that class is, and I think that kind of speaks to the facilities that UCO has committed to improving and offering the student athletes. And just a lot of great things there. And then that's not it. That the Sports Performance Center comes on the heels of the new Broncos softball stadium, which we opened last year, is just over $3 million softball stadium, and just one of the finest facilities in Division II. We can broadcast our games, and we have just a fantastic place for these kids to come. And again, the softball team, they have their own locker room, where before they didn't. It was just kind of a fenced-in field of dirt. The coaches had to spend a lot of time raking and watering and mowing and all that stuff. And now with a artificial turf field, they have a lot of extra time on their hands that they can spend more coaching, more lessons for players, and a little more recruiting too. And so things like that have really been beneficial for a softball team that's aiming to try to get back to a national championship. And kind of the same goes for baseball, where we're putting the finishing touches on installing new turf at Wendell Simmons Field. And kind of, again, it's kind of every time you start talking about facilities, the improvements are lead to the same thing. It's a better experience for the student athlete, which is what it's all about. And it just it helps. We like to do things first class, even if we were hosting a softball game on a dirt field that was fenced in. We're still trying to do things first class, and now we have just a little bit better facilities to do that for them.
And now, with all these changes in the facilities and the new sports complex going up north of the football stadium, there's expectations. And, then success is supposed to follow, right? So what are the expectations now that, we've got millions of dollars of renovations and changes going on? You have a new athletic director. What are the expectations now, and is there some room for the success to grow over the next several years?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was an interesting thing about a school that was having a lot of success, multiple national championships, and they were trying to effort some fundraising to improve their facilities. And some of the response they got was, well, you're winning a national championship with what you got. Why do you need more? So, but then again, you want to improve your facilities to give your kids a better opportunity, but at the same time, you want to improve your facilities to become a better program. The expectations do go up, but I'll say this, the wrestling team has an expectation to win a national championship every single year. The softball team has an expectation to win a national championship again, like they did in 2013. And there are other sports that are no different. Their expectations are to win conference championships and to go to the national tournament every year and to try to compete for a national championship. So it does change. It may be an expectation maybe is grows a little more, but the end result, the end goal doesn't change at all for UCO. A lot of these guys are trying to do that every year anyway.
Yeah, because sports is obviously a culture. The athletic department is a culture. It is part of this academic setting, but within that culture, success is an expectation, no matter what the facilities are. I mean, the the softball team won the national championship before they got the $3 million renovation over there. So, but from a public view, outside in, maybe faculty and others, they see all this going up. So now they're expecting championships, and so the expectations on you guys from outside, right? Sometimes that chatter can be a little distracting. You see it at D1 levels. We are D2, but do you see that, or do you hear that, or do you hear that through the grapevine as an SID?
I think it exists, yeah, and I think that coaches a lot of times might need to tell their players nothing else matters besides what you're doing on the field. And again, yeah, there whatever the expectations were for the softball team in 2013, they exceeded them with winning a national championship. With the team didn't have a locker room. They're Division II. There are no full scholarships, and obviously over the last 5 to 10 years, everyone's funding has been kind of slashed. So how many half scholarships can you even give a team? And they're able to overcome that and win. And the coaches are kind of still trying to do the same thing, whether it's a funding issue or whether it's the chatter of hey, you guys have a new $15 million sports performance center. We expect your performance to go up a little bit and to be better. Yeah, that exists, and everyone knows that. But at the same time, whether it's chatter or any other circumstance in a rivalry or anything like that, once the whistle blows, once the competition begins, it's only about you and your opponent. And I think that the coaches do a good job of trying to tell the student athletes that and try to get that into their head. And yeah, they're probably going to need to continue that, whether with new facilities, maybe that chatter maybe increases a little bit. It certainly exists, but you kind of just gotta, it's up to the coaches to get these kids to believe that, once the competition begins, it's just a matter of you and your opponent.
We're speaking with Sports Information Director Chris Brannick, the SID of UCO's athletic department, and we are here on Central Spotlight, and we will continue with our discussion with Chris after we take a short break. You're listening to Central Spotlight. Welcome back to Central Spotlight. I'm your host, David Nelson, Professor of Mass Communication here at UCO. Our guest today is Chris Brannick, the SID for the UCO Athletic Department, and we've been discussing all the changes that have been occurring on campus. And when you drive by the University of Central Oklahoma, Chowning, I have to make sure I get the street correct, but you see changes. If you had a drone, you flew over the athletic department, you would see massive changes with the baseball field. I noticed the changes with the baseball field when I saw all these large rolls of AstroTurf, right, stacking up 6-7 feet high, and I knew it was going in, that the new AstroTurf was going in. So a lot of exciting things happening here at UCO within the athletic department, and that includes individual honors. And I have one of the athletes we're going to talk about, JT Looper. Had him in class, and now he's of course, prepping for the NFL and getting his stock higher and higher as he's been competing. And here's a kid from Texas, and athletically he's talented, but got here and realized I got to put a lot of more hard work in, here at the D2 level than I did at the community college. And I'll let you share more about JT, but I know from my perspective as a professor, having him in class, leaps and bounds academically in my class, just from the beginning of the semester to the end of the semester. And I said, man, this kid cares about growing, getting better at everything, whether it be sports or academically. So I was really impressed with him, and I'm happy to see that he's had a lot of success on the field and off the field. What can you share about JT?
What it sounds like is your experience with him as a student, and in my experience with him as an athlete, that he kind of took the same approach in practice in trying to just really get better. And you know, a lot of times student athletes might not realize that practice means so much more. And to do that in the classroom is very important, and then you can do that in your field of play, and you can really become so much better. And JT did that this year. Yeah, 2 years ago when he came here from junior college, he was a very talented kid, and just he had a really good season as a junior wide receiver. This past fall, though, as a senior wide receiver, it was just an incredible jump, and it sure was fun to watch. You know, getting to see him play and getting to see the things he did. He became an All-American. He earned All-American honors from numerous different organizations, and some pretty big ones too. The Associated Press All-America team was something that UCO did not have representation on for some time. The Division II CCA is the Conference Commissioners Association, and he's an All-American there. The American Football Coaches Association, he's an All-American there. D2football.com. This list keeps going for a little bit. And the Don Hansen football team, All-American football team, and so.
And he was up also for the award that's equivalent to the Heisman.
Yeah, and so the Harlan Hill Trophy is widely considered the D2 Heisman. The Harlan Hill Trophy is the Division II Player of the Year.
Okay.
And so you can, a lot of the nominees, sports information directors around the country, Division II SIDs, nominate players, and you don't just kind of nominate someone every year. You kind of, and a lot of SIDs really take into consideration whether they're going to nominate someone. And you know, we kind of knew with JT, he led the NCAA in receiving yards this year, and he led Division II in receptions with 110 and receiving yards with 1,593, and he had 12 touchdowns. Well, the receiving yards, he led the all of NCAA. There were no college football players who had more yards receiving than JT Looper, and I'm talking Division I guys, FCS, FBS, Division III guys, junior college guys, NAIA guys. JT had more yards receiving than anybody, and it wasn't always that he was just, you know, we're throwing Hail Marys to him 5 times a game and hope he catches one of them. He was just made such a great improvement into this year, and was you know, he had the most receptions in a single season. He had set some conference records again and leading the country in receiving yards, and you know, all that kind of, he helped UCO win their last 6 games of the year, finish 8-4, and win the inaugural Corsicana Bowl. So UCO gets 3 bowl games in 4 years and wins 2 of them, wins two bowl games in 3 years. So he was a big part of that. And even though as the season went on, it didn't take but 3 or 4 weeks before you know what everyone's going to do. Every coach is watching every game in the league. The football team plays an 11-game all league games schedule. It doesn't take long to figure out UCO is going to throw the ball to number 2. And but that didn't change anything for him. He just kind of continued to get better. You know, in his first game this year, and we won I think 35-14, and he actually only had, you know, I think 4 catches, maybe 60 or 70 yards. But then by the 7th game of the season, he's having 12 catches for 250 yards and 4 touchdowns. And people knew we were going to throw the ball to number 2, and that didn't change anything. And again, that just kind of speaks to that work ethic that he had, as he was going to do what he had to do to beat his opponent. He had a good quote in the newspaper one time of, when it's me against him, and I'm just going to be better than him. And that was just kind of what he did and what he said to himself. And he kind of proved that again, earning All-American honors. He was the Conference Player of the Year. He was the Regional Player of the Year. He finished 6th in the Harlan Hill voting. We're talking about the National Player of the Year. The quarterback on the national champion team ends up winning that award. And JT finished 6th. He had a couple of first-place votes and ended 6th in total voting. Just a great year. I mean, when you talk about best all time and things, there's so many different factors that always come in of when you played and who you played against and who you played with. And but when you look at the numbers, the season he had, 110 catches, almost 1,600 yards, there's no doubt that he had one of the best years that any UCO wide receiver has ever had.
And I'm going to try to do the math here, but that's about 13 to 15 yards a catch. And JT Looper, for those who never saw him play, stature about 5'8", maybe 5'7", 140, 145. He claims. He told me personally in class he runs about a 4.45, 4.40, which is the NFL is going to love that. And I'm going to guess that the NFL is going to like him as a slot receiver or, short down type thing where he can do those slants and do. But his speed showed up in D2 football, and his tweets now have been that he's been sharing, because I follow him, is simply, I'm exhausted. I mean, he is exhausted physically, and this is him just prepping again for these combines. But, he's not a big guy, but he's always been told, right, you're too small.
Yeah, and part of the tremendous season he had was receiving an invite to the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. And that's a senior bowl game played out in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. And it is probably more than 95% Division I seniors who are being looked at as potential NFL players. The Harlan Hill winner I mentioned earlier was also invited there. So there's a couple of non-D1 guys there, and JT was one of them, and he gets invited to play in that, and that's a pretty big deal. And right before he spent a couple of days out there. They get a few days of practice, and kind of just trying to figure out who's going to be where. But they kind of had a mini combine there. It comes out. Yeah, JT Looper, he's 5'7". They weighed him at 157 pounds.
Oh, they did? Okay.
So he got over that 150 mark, 157 pounds. He was officially the smallest player at the bowl game.
Okay.
But again, that didn't change anything for him. And it almost, he probably thrives knowing that. And being the smallest dog in the fight is something I said about him, and I like his odds. He got out there and he played really well. They only threw him the ball one time. He caught it.
He did catch it.
Made a man miss. He got his 12-yard first down. They ran a reverse with him and he gained 8 yards. So that was all he had, was one carry, 8 yards, one catch, 12 yards. But he played really well, and really just the opportunity to be there, to be in a senior bowl game where all the NFL teams have representation. And are keeping an eye on him. And he's a guy that if they're playing enough off of him that the quarterback can get him the ball with any room to work, he's going to make a guy miss. He's going to get a few extra yards. And again, he does a lot of what a lot of UCO guys do. They fall forward, and when you tackle them, and if it takes 2 or 3 guys to make a tackle, they're still going to try to get those extra couple of yards here and there. And he did. He's a guy that, if anybody wants to take a chance with him, again, he only needs just a little bit of room to work, and he's got an opportunity. Of course, there's some 157 pounds. There's some NFL guys that maybe their legs weigh that much, and so. But again, it would be an incredible challenge, but I wouldn't think there's another person who'd be more up to it than JT.
Mm-hmm. And you used to tell me I'm a lot stronger than I look, Nelson. So we wish him luck. We're going to take a little break. We're speaking with Chris Brannick, the SID here at the University of Central Oklahoma. This is Central Spotlight, and when we come back, we'll do a little round through the athletic department, talk about some other sports and some of the other athletes, and then we'll wind it up then, and we'll be right back. This is Central Spotlight here on the campus of UCO. Welcome to Central Spotlight. I'm your host, David Nelson, professor of mass communication here at UCO. Our guest is Chris Brannick, SID of the UCO Athletic Department, and this is our last segment, so we'll just kind of wrap it up and talk about some of the other achievements in other sports and get away from football a little bit and get some little time to these other sports and some of these other athletes who've done really well lately.
Well, sure. It's shaping up to be a pretty good year for UCO athletics in terms of, we mentioned JT Looper being honored as an All-American from a lot of different organizations. Taylor Bevis kind of got the same opportunity in volleyball. The volleyball team had another great year. That they go to the NCAA tournament for the second time in 3 years. And Bevis is a junior. That class is, I believe, 90 wins in 3 years, and 2 trips to the NCAA tournament. And Bevis is now a 2-time All-American. She earned the honors as a sophomore. She was the conference freshman of the year and All-American as a sophomore. And then this year, her junior year, just a banner year, over 500 kills. She was a Volleyball Coaches Association All-American, a CCA All-American, like I mentioned with Looper, kind of the same organization. And then an academic All-American, which I find is to be the biggest one. Mm-hmm. It's not just that she has a fantastic GPA. She's a nursing student, so she'll miss practice to fulfill her obligations in the nursing department, going to clinicals and things like that. But to be an academic All-American, you can't just have the GPA. You have to have the performance on the court too. It's the best of both. Academics and athletics, and she earned that honor this year, and very proud of her for that. And I know Coach is, and I know she is as well. And so again, another athlete, a student athlete here at UCO with just a few All-American honors in one season, and that's always something real special. Some of the other sports that are again doing the winter sports, trying to get closer to the postseason. The wrestling team, again, you talk about the UCO wrestling team and 15 national championship banners hanging in the field house, and they're anxious to put another one up, and they're doing what they can now, where you've got the number 2 ranked 125-pound wrestler in the country and the number 4 ranked heavyweight in the country, and there are others that are ranked too at 149 pounds, 157 pounds, and so a lot of talent on the wrestling team. They've had a pretty good season so far, and they're getting a lot closer to the postseason and trying to make that push again to compete for another national championship. And then as the basketball teams as well, both enjoying a lot of success. For UCO, for the volleyball teams to be ranked in the top 25 all season, and they have been for 2.5 years, every weekly poll for 2.5 years, and the basketball team is ranked. The wrestling team is a nationally ranked team, and now kind of bursting onto the scene now is our women's tennis team, who has become nationally ranked. They made a jump from being ranked 44th in the country, which in some sports they kind of stop at 25. Tennis keeps going down to 50, and the UCO was ranked number 44, and then in this spring's inaugural poll they jumped up to number 13 in the country, and that's just kind of you don't really hear of a team making a jump like that, but that's what Coach Mastis is trying to do with the tennis team, and I think they're eager. They went to the NCAA tournament last year and got beat out in their first game, in their second game, the second round of the NCAA tournament. And I think they're ready to make a push to go a little further into that. And as we look to spring sports trying to get underway, tennis is one to keep an eye on, and rowing is always one to keep an eye on. 2 years ago they were national runners-up. Last year they were again national runners-up. Their varsity 8 boat won the national championship. and the varsity 4 boat was second. So they ended up losing just by a fraction of, just by one single point in the team standings to winning a national championship. And they're incredibly competitive. And you know, we kind of look forward again. There's a couple of teams you want to keep your eye on in the spring. You should look for the rowing team, the tennis team, maybe the softball team to really just continue the success we had in the fall with you know, winning a bowl game and going to the national tournament in volleyball, and teams just letting on the national rankings. It's kind of, you know, let it be known that Central Oklahoma is a name to be familiar with, and I think there's some teams in the spring that are going to try to continue that and have another successful year.
Well, thank you. Chris Brannick, the SID from the University of Central Oklahoma's Athletic Department, and this is Central Spotlight. Thank you for being with us today. And I'm your host, David Nelson, a professor of mass communication. And until our next show, have a good day, and thank you for listening to Central Spotlight.